Germany is doing everything they can to stop organizations like Scientology because they can recognize the characteristics of another Nazi party. Scientology is striving for a different society in which every non-Scientologist will be managed by the Scientology leaders of tomorrow, with what they consider to be superior methods. Scientology wants to establish its own legal system that is binding upon everyone, with Scientology standards but without any guarantee of the course of law, without the due process of law, without lawful and independent judges, and without lawful administration. Scientology disregards human rights and the principles of equality, since only cleared, non-aberrant Scientologists are entitled to enjoy rights.
Okay, boom, done. This is what a Scientology society would actually look like. This is what people living in a Scientology society would be like. Yet the U.S. government has yet to recognize this insidious danger. Boom.
To Germans.
Over to the
No,
Germans.
I disagree. The transition is that the Germans have intensively studied what Scientology, and this is what they see as a Scientology world, and then go into that.
Well, that's good too. You need to say that too, but you need to do a little bit of an end, a denouement about this whole thing you just spent pages and pages talking about, the soul of a Scientologist, what a Scientologist is really like, the kind of damage that Scientology perpetrates on people. This is, you know,
Okay.
You need to do something like that.
Okay, fine, okay. I got you.
See what I mean?
Okay, sit down, let me finish reading.
Sorry,
That's good.
sorry.
Otherwise, we're never going to get anything done. Based upon such a careful analysis, can you see why it is that Germany has been wise enough to see Scientology for what it is? They have made the effort to understand it. In the United States, we have the Wall Street Journal on February 24th, 1998, questioning the methods used by Scientology to gain tax-exempt status. The journal suggested an auditing session for Scientology, starting out with a question as to how the vast sums of money spent by Scientology on litigation and to harass critics meets the IRS requirements for a 501c3 corporation to spend its funds for charitable purposes.
The internet needs to spearhead this educational effort. If people on the internet can really understand what this is, they can do a lot to get the United States government to listen to this danger.
Yeah,
but
the problem is
thing
that the people on the internet are not able to explain it or understand it, and therefore cannot cause action to take place.
Right, and the other thing you need to do is, why hasn't the U.S. gone to the same trouble that Germany has gone to understand this, right? Our U.S. media has begun to address this issue, and our government needs to listen. Because, you know, you go into the U.S. isn't doing anything, and then the next thing you say is, the Wall Street Journal said this really cool thing, the New York Times said this really cool thing, you know, blah, 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 the Boston Globe said this really cool thing, and it's kind of like, well, wait a minute, those are U.S. media. What do you mean the U.S. isn't doing anything? But what you mean is the U.S. government isn't doing anything. Despite the fact that our own media has now begun to
Yeah, but I'm not sure that, you know, that I'm not sure that I'm you know, really asking the government to do anything. I don't believe much in the government.
Well, who are you asking to do? I mean, you're saying, look what Germany's doing. How come the U.S. can't? Yes, you are.
I guess.
You know, you are.
Okay.
I think we ought to do I think we ought to do the Germany thing. Then we ought to do Greece and Spain.
29 convicted in Milan. Patrick Vick, negligent, you know, involuntary homicide conviction, leader of Scientology.
In France, yeah, etc.
You know, country after country, Canada, the largest libel award in history.
What about the U.S.?
Criminal conviction in Canada.
Where is the United States?
The whole attitude in the United States towards fringe religious movements, which they like to call themselves, and which the United States government more or less agrees with, has radically shifted in the last 25, 30 years. It's completely shifted.
To what?
It's shifted to a laissez-faire type approach.
Right, well, that's what you need to say. You need to say, hey, this laissez-faire attitude needs to stop. The U.S. government is buying the slick public image. You know, even our own media, even our own Wall Street Journal and New York Times.
They're not buying the slick public image.
The government is.
No, but not the media.
Sorry, not the media.
Even our media. No, I'm saying even our own media is starting to point this out.
Sorry, yeah, okay.
And that's basically, then boom, okay, cool.
Okay. Well,
It's an attached bathroom to the Oval Office.
why doesn't this committee
Adjourn.
adjourn and, you know, a small working group set up?
A task force. We're gonna
A
set up a
task
small
force,
task
a
force.
task force of 20. Scientology dislikes the internet. It dislikes FactNet. It dislikes me, and it dislikes this conference. Scientology has virtually unlimited funds. They boast of spending $1 million a week to pay high-priced attorneys and private investigators to intimidate and harass critics and former members. Their cynicism and relentless vindictiveness knows no boundaries. And they will stop at nothing to destroy anyone who tries to stand in their way. In Greece last week, the press reported that Scientology had obtained military intelligence secrets from the Greek government following Greece's expulsion of Scientology. Following a statement by Scientology President Heber Jensch in Denmark last week that Scientology would be fully accepted in Europe during the next 5 to 10 years, Spanish officials the very next day, in their ongoing prosecution against Scientology, have requested 30 years of jail time for Mr. Jensch. Perhaps one day plus 30 years from now, Mr. Jensch will also be accepted in Europe. Scientology is both a menace to our society and to our way of life. In closing, I would like to quote from a review of the book Dianetics. The review was written by Milton Saperstein and published in The Nation in 1950. I first noticed this quote in the Washington Post on December the 6th, 1998, when Richard Leiby wrote about Lisa McPherson's life and death in Scientology. I was very taken by Saperstein's grasp of this evil 48 years ago. And I quote, "The real, and to me the inexcusable danger in Dianetics lies in its conception of the amoral, detached, 100% efficient mechanical man, superbly free-floating, unemotional, and unrelated to anything. This is the authoritarian dream, a population of zombies, free to be manipulated by the great brains of the founder, the leaders of the inner manipulative clique. The entire counter-cult community exists to ensure that this message continues to be heard. I personally am proud to be a part of this movement and to count you as my friends. Thank you for attention to my remarks tonight."
I think that particularly well during the question.
People were
That's
quiet.
the ad-lib part.
Yeah.
That's the part where you can't.
People were quiet, noticed, very quiet,
Yeah.
and they were very attentive. I think you really, you got their attention. Oh, he's a joker. It's just, he's got to go bend a few spoons before bed every night.
There were a number of questions. And people that aren't interested don't ask questions.
Yeah.
So, yeah. I think that's a good sign.
It was, I think a good word for it was spellbound. The audience was spellbound.
Well, some powerful stuff
It's
there.
very quiet. Very few people moved around or anything.
This
Everybody was attentive.
has not tried to learn Scientology.
Right.
I mean, I would come to these meetings when I was, in all that litigation, and people would walk away from me,
Right.
pretend they didn't see me,
Right.
I
because
know, blame the victim.
because I was, if they talk to me, maybe they'd get tainted too, maybe
Right,
they'd get
exactly.
sued
Yeah.
too.
No,
Right,
that's,
well, yeah, absolutely.
It's typical.
So I think you're absolutely right.
Take far more than 4 minutes to do a rebuttal about that. You know that? It would take far more than 4 minutes.